Let me tell you something. This place is not a place of word game. But here, we discuss biblical mysteries into a revealed truth and a reality. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the ministry of Abraham. Abraham was a great man. He's the greatest icon of the Bible, so far as biblical history is concerned. So we are going to delve deep into the ministry and the service, the servanthood of Abraham, what Abraham did for God and what God did through Abraham. It's very important as a Christian to know the position of God and the position of man so far Abraham's ministry is concerned. Now, in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, the Bible said, and God called unto Abraham and said he should leave his kindred country and place and go to a nation that he will show him. God did not mention the place he was going. Now, God called Abraham for this reason. After the fall of man, after Adam and Eve disobeyed God and fell short of God's glory and was driven out of the glory of God, God still had eternal plan for man. So there was a promise was dropped when God was speaking to them after they disobeyed him. A promise was dropped in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. What was the promise? The promise that was dropped, which is a plan, eternal plan that God has for man, is that God spoke to the serpent, who symbolizes Satan, that because of what you have done, you and this woman, I will put enmity between you and the seed of the woman. And your seed, your descendants, shall bruise the heel of the woman, descendants, and his seed shall bruise the head of the serpent. The discourse in this is this. It means that there's going to be a woman's birth. We know that seed that brings about birth, reproduction, is from men. It's not from women. But in this promise, God promised that there's going to be a seed from a woman to conquer Satan. So, this is a promise. And in every promise, there should be an authentication. There should be a covenant to authenticate and affirm it. In the physical, when I make a promise to you or my son, it's just a promise. But if I want to authenticate it, I go through legal procedure. And signatories are used to authenticate it. So that tomorrow, even if I'm not there, no one, it will be affirmed that this property was promised to this man and legally belonged to him. And nobody can take it away from him. In the realm of the spirit, to authenticate a promise is what we call a covenant. In the physical, pen and ink is used to authenticate a promise. But in the divine, blood is used to authenticate a promise. And that blood that is used to authenticate the promise is called the covenant. So after God promised that the seed of the woman will conquer Satan in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, he needed a man through him. He could birth a covenant to authenticate that promise and make it a promise that he himself cannot change his mind again. He must deliver it to man at all costs. So this compelled God to look for a man on earth who give him earthly license to operate this system of covenant on the earth. Why do God needed a man to give him earthly license so that he could operate from heaven? In Genesis chapter 1 verse 28, when after God created everything, he handed the authority and rulership of the earth to mankind. So no spirit or no God can come here and do anything, not for men, even without the permission of man. God made his word and he himself obeys it. So he needed someone to help him to make a covenant so that that promise in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15 will become a covenant, a promise that will compel him, that he cannot change his mind. And God found Abraham. And this is where the ministry of Abraham begins from. Now, God called Abraham so that through him, he could make blood to authenticate the promise, so that he could bring the seed of the woman, who is Jesus, which has already come now. But at that time, it was just a promise. So in the process of, in the way God was dealing with Abraham, working with Abraham, his daily work and then daily conversation, waiting for time that he could deliver that, then Abraham as a human could not wait for God. Then he delivered Ishmael. Great. But before the time for God to deliver the what? His covenant, Abraham put God in a particular special position. And this is why I want you to listen very carefully. There are two covenants, great covenants, that are driving the Bible message today. The first covenant, which is called the Old Covenant, and the New Covenant, which is called the Second Covenant. This is where they were two of them were born. So I want to basically deal with how they were born. This is all part of Abraham's ministry. In the first covenant, which is the Old Covenant, Genesis chapter 15. This covenant is called, I call the covenant of Abraham. This is not the covenant of God. Why? It was Abraham who requested for this covenant. Let's go to Genesis chapter 15. That's why I said, then God appeared to Abraham and said, I will bless you. Then Abraham asked God, you have not given me a son. What shows that? It means my servant is going to be my heir. Then God said, no, you are going to give a birth from your own loins. Then he said, what showed that? You say you give me, my descendant, this land. What is the proof? That is verse 7 and verse 8. He said, what is the proof that what you have promised me, you will do? And I told you earlier on that when there is no a signatory on a promise, it is not powerful. So Abraham needed a signatory, divine one. And I told you that a divine signatory is called a covenant. So it compelled God to make a covenant with Abraham. To prove to God that my promise I will deliver to you. So God told Abraham, go and find me a heifer, a turtle dove, a 3 years this thing, a calf and this thing. Abraham found all these things and killed them. And God came there and delivered the message about the covenant to him and told him that those who are coming to receive this promise will go to a land and become slaves there 400 years. And afterward, I will bring them to inherit this promise that I have made to you. So this promise, this covenant brought about when the first covenant, which Israelites walked in it, that is when it was born. Now, after this, then the real reason why God called Abraham was up. Though in Genesis chapter 22, after Isaac was born, then God called Abraham one day and said, take your son that you have born, your only son. Listen very carefully. He said, your only son, go to the mountain on which I will show you and sacrifice him as an offering to me. Then Abraham believed God and followed the instructions of God. Then when it was about on the mountain, he gave Abraham out in his heart to God, wanted to slaughter him and burn him. Then God lifted up a hand and said, I know that you fear me and you have believed me. You are giving Isaac to me, so don't touch him. There's a ram. Use that ram to sacrifice instead. Then God blessed Abraham. In verse 8, he says that because you have done this and you have not denied me your only son, your seed, in your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. This is the difference between this covenant and the first one. In the first covenant, chapter 15, verse 18, he told them that your descendants I'll give this land to your descendants, and I'll bless your descendants on this land. But in the second one, he said, the whole family of the earth. Because God made this covenant because of the whole people in the earth, not only a particular sect of people. So this covenant is where, which allowed God and permitted God. It is the covenant that sealed the coming of Jesus Christ. It was a covenant that allowed God to deliver Jesus through Mary. So after the covenant was born, then time and season was put in it, when it should be manifested. Then, afterward, some years, thousands of years, that virgin, that woman who produced the seed to break the head of the serpent, was born, Jesus Christ, through Mary. He was conceived of the Holy Spirit and gave birth to the seed of the woman, and he conquered Satan, went to heaven, and you are waiting for him. God bless you for listening. It's great. God has, it is the will of God. It is the, when you are listening to me, don't think it is an accident. God wants you to get this message today, so that the road will be clear to you. So the ministry of Abraham is that he permitted God to birth a covenant, that through that covenant, Jesus was delivered to the world. And Jesus is the seed of the woman, who was promised in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. God bless you. I know we'll meet once again. As I said earlier on, this place is not about word game. We don't play words to confuse people or persuade people. But this place is discourse of biblical mysteries into a revealed truth and reality, so that you'll be enlightened, be inspired, and be transformed into the status and the like of God. God bless you. Bye.